Now, Eaton Square is considered by a lot of people as the most prestigious address in London. Roman Abramovich had 2 properties down here. Not content with one, he bought 2, with a combined total of an estimated £80 million. He knocked them both into a palatial home. Good morning, everyone. It's Sinead here. Sometimes I feel like I haven't spoken to you in like 4 million years. And I'm trying to figure out where today am I going to bring you to give you the most gossip, intrigue, scandal, murder, parties, legends, loves, fantasies, drugs. And I can't think of any better place than the stories in Belgravia. So today, everyone, I wanted to start on the beautiful Pimlico Road. And Pimlico Road, a very bougie part of London, famous for its upmarket galleries, boutiques, wonderful restaurants and coffee shops, will bring us and link us along what is called Orange Square and straight down into Belgravia and Ebury Street. Now, firstly, I wanted to take you into Orange Square because Orange Square has a statue of a very famous young boy who moved here with his family at the tender age of 8. And already a music prodigy all over Europe, he was brought here on an international music tour. And this is a statue of the young Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. And why exactly is it here? Well, it's here because for a couple of weeks he spent time with his family right down here on Ebury Street, that we're going to see in just a moment, at number 180. Now, he had several residences in London, Mozart, but Soho being one of them, of course, which you will have seen on my rock and roll tour, right above Bar Italia. But in this one, it's quite significant because, well, it's quite interesting to consider his father was taken seriously ill in here and he forbade Mozart from playing any music. Not that it was relevant because he had already composed at the tender age of 8 his very first symphony inside this very house, 180 Ebury Street, and that was called K16. So I often wonder where the most blue plaques are in London, and I believe it's supposed to be Kensington and Chelsea, but we're going to see quite a few today. And here was the home where he spent a period of time, and I believe it was around 1774. Look at this beautiful little quaint house here. Now, in order to understand the origin or how it became one of the most desired addresses in London, Belgravia, we have to go all the way back to the beginning. And right next door as well lived famous writers and gardeners. And that is Harold Nicholson, 1886 to 1968, and Vita Sackville West from 1892 to 1962. So we need to go all the way back to the origins of Belgravia. So Belgravia takes its name from a village in the area of Chester here in the UK. Now, Chester is a residence, it's in the Eaton estate actually, Belgrave. And the Eaton estate is where the principal residence of the Grosvenor family is located in Eaton Hall. Now, the Grosvenor family arrived here in London during the time of William the Conqueror in 1066. And they were, for a period of time, just an aristocratic family, essentially. But I guess the prominence of the Grosvenor family came about, look at these beautiful homes, in 1677, when a chap called Thomas Grosvenor married a young girl called Mary Davis. Now, when he married her, her dowry included of undeveloped land all around London. Now, for a period of time here in London, after the Great Fire, so the Great Fire was always the home of the very wealthy in London, the city of London. Sorry, it was always the home of the gentry and the very wealthy in London. But after the Great Fire, there became a huge demand for more planned urban residential properties in the western part of London. So that is when the undeveloped land of the Grosvenors, they started to redevelop. And probably one of the most famous builders and incredible property magnates was hired. His name was Thomas Cubitt, and he was hired to develop some of the most beautiful lands in London. And the Grosvenors' land now can account for Belgravia, Pimlico, and all around Victoria, and Mayfair. So Mayfair was the first to be developed, but it wasn't until around 1862 that the stunning neighbourhood was developed, and Thomas Cubitt was head property developer for the Eaton family that began to develop these amazing residential squares. Now this is Eaton Terrace. So all of these properties essentially to this day are still technically owned by the Grosvenor family. Now the Grosvenor family, the head of the Grosvenor family is a chap called the Duke of Westminster. And the current Duke of Westminster recently got married, you may remember. He got married in their family home in Chester. And an usher for the wedding was His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales. I believe the invitation was rescinded for the other prince in the US just to avoid an awkward clash on the day. And he is now the wealthiest Englishman in the world. He's just over 30 and he's an estimated wealth of over £30 billion. So the Grosvenors' influence is everywhere we look today. Now, we've just walked a little bit along Ebury Street, but Ebury Street has seen the likes of Sir Ian Fleming, lived in Ebury Street. In fact, it's where he wrote his very first James Bond novel, Casino Royale. It's also where Terence Stamp and Michael Caine enjoyed a fantastic bachelor lifestyle in a flat they once shared together on Eaton Square. But it's only a little small part of what we're going to see today. Now, it's very hard to find a neighbourhood that has been so heavily influenced as much by one family in London as this particular one. So, yes, the Grosvenors, we will see evidence of them everywhere we go today. Eaton Terrace is where we're on right now, and that's named after the family's country seat. But they've had a ridiculous amount of titles apart from the Duke of Westminster. The family are known as the Marquess of Westminster, Earl Grosvenor, Viscount Belgrave, or Viscount Belgrave, Baron Grosvenor of Eaton, and Baronet of Eaton. And the houses along here largely date back to around the 1850s, ladies and gents, all along here. So they normally sell in the region of anywhere from 5 to 10 million. Now you have a charming little pub here as well, the Duke of Wellington. So this was originally meant to serve as a library or a reading room for employees of the local aristocrats, but it later became a pub. And there's a lot of memorabilia inside there referring to the Iron Duke, the Duke of Wellington himself, of course, famous victor over Napoleon. He himself is buried actually inside in St. Paul's Cathedral. This is just a little quaint shot of the interior of the Duke of Wellington pub. It seems to be a very local vibe and atmosphere in there. Really a nice little place to have on your doorstep in Eaton Square. A chance would be a fine thing, folks. So we're going to take a slight little detour down here. I want to take you down here and show you the Minera Mews, which a lot of you will be familiar with from a lot of my other videos. They're private mews, but these originally would have been stables, street stables, and home to the servants and the coachmen of the aristocrats in the area, but now they are stunning homes. That's going to take us on a little adventure. Amazing to think that one family own all of these properties, ladies and gentlemen. They're usually leased out or can be technically bought on a 99-year lease. That's usually how it works. So you never truly own your property, but you do for 100 years. So as we're taking a little stroll up South Eaton Place here, amazing to think that the genius that was Thomas Cupid was the one who developed all these magnificent residential properties. And you're never far from a blue plaque in Belgravia. In fact, we have two here. And the Viscount Cecil of Chelwood, creator of the League of Nations, lived here, as did Philip Noel Barker, an Olympic sportsman, campaigner for peace and disarmament, lived here. So it's going to take us up to Gerald Street, and there's a reminder every corner you take, whether it be Belgravia, Chester Square, Eaton Square, or Gerrard Street, of the Grosvenor family. It's like a permanent reminder of who owns everything around here. Gerald is a very famous first name of the Duke of Westminster. Hugh is another one, Thomas, and Gerald. So the current Duke of Westminster's father was Gerald Grosvenor. I mean, look at these magnificent homes. Now, I believe I've read somewhere as well that all the buildings are required to be painted in what is called Queen Elizabeth White. And that actual paint is patented and owned, the actual paint colour itself, by, you guessed it, the Grosvenor family, ladies and gents. So that's another requirement of the area. Now, just to give you a kind of an idea of where we are, we're actually very close to Victoria Coach and Train Station. Ebury Street in Eaton Place, the area of Belgravia, is right up the back, essentially, of Victoria. Now we have another very famous resident who lived along here. And we are heading up here to where another man that lived around London in certain different locations. And this is the home of Frederick. Oh no, actually he didn't live here, but Frederick Chopin. This is where he gave his very first concert, London concert, in this house on the 23rd of June 1848. I mean, incredible to think, only a few streets apart. Two of the most celebrated, incredible composers in history lived so close to each other. Frederick Chopin and Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. If you write down here and show you the home, number 17 lived a wonderful Sir Noel Coward, author, composer, and actor, 1930 to 1956. Look at that magnificent home. Now, it's in here he wrote many of his famous works, actually, including The Cavalcade, The Happy Breed, and Brief Encounter. And another thing I want to just show you, see these gas electric lights, ladies and gents, that predate electricity. They used to be powered actually by the sewer, and long tapers were used to light them on a night. But it's on this very row as well, along here, Now I'm looking for a blue plaque along here that apparently at one time was a police station, and it's in this very police station where Ringo Starr and George, they paid a visit here on the 19th of April in 1964 to report a theft of various items from their flat that they shared in nearby William Mews. Oh, there it is, the site of Gerald Road Police Station, 1846 to 1993, unveiled by Paul Condon the 15th of July. The plaque was in 1993. Okay, now on to one of the most exclusive residential properties in London. I'm going to head straight in to the beautiful Chester Square. It's a nice day, so you've got a lot of people out having coffee and drinks along the main high street here. No shortage of beautiful restaurants, boutiques and areas to get a drink along the way, but cigar store there as well. This is the street that has topped the list of some of Britain's most expensive addresses in recent years, and it was also where former prime ministers lived down here. So it was one of 3 original squares developed in the area, and they include Belgrave Square, Chester Square and Eaton Square. We'll have a little look around this area. Now on the left as you enter, as you can see here, you have the beautiful St. Michael's Chester Square, and this church was designed by Thomas Cundy and it was finished in 1844. Notable past residents in this immediate area would have included Guy Burgess, Mary Shelley, the author of Frankenstein, and it was also home to Margaret Thatcher, ladies and gents. She lived here during her years as Prime Minister before she took up residence at the Ritz Hotel when she was convalescing. That's where she eventually passed away, in the Ritz. I believe number 50 down here was sold in the last maybe 5 years for 20 million pounds. And this is the one that sold, number 50 here, for over 20 million. Now for years when I worked as an open-top tour guide, there was always a policeman stationed outside the home of Margaret Thatcher when she still lived there, the former Prime Minister. That's number 50. 20 million that retailed at. And occasionally you'd give a little wave to the policeman, you'd always get a wave back. We used to have great fun with that. So these are the beautiful gardens here in Chester Square. Again, I've told you this so many times, but wonderful key gardens, exclusive gardens to the residents of the neighbourhood. Accessible only by key. But we're coming up here now on, the home. Oh my God, we had trouble pronouncing this guy's name up in Highgate that time as well. Yehudi Menuhin, the famous violinist and conductor. Look at this gorgeous, gorgeous area. I mean, just such quaint village-like atmosphere as well. It's just hard to imagine you're so close to Victoria Coach Station. It's so quiet and peaceful in the area. Now it's actually down here that Margaret Thatcher lived, so we're going to head down there. This is where I used to pass on the open top buses, you guys. It's down here. I think it's the one under renovation, actually. Just up here on the right hand side, yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. I'll take you on a little stroll here. Yes, I am correct. It's the one under extensive renovation there. Now, whether or not it's still in the Thatcher family, I'm not entirely sure. Maybe it could have been sold. Yeah, just found out it's still owned by the Thatcher family, so they're massive remodelling. It's a nice legacy to leave your children. A beautiful home in Chester Square. Now let's see who was in close proximity to her here. Oh, I vaguely remember this. Queen, my apologies, what is wrong with me? Wilhelmina of the Netherlands had her secretariat in this house from the 1940 to 1945. Queen Wilhelmina of the Netherlands. So yeah, just give you a little idea. Look at these beautiful muses. Gorgeous apartments and houses and flats. Now we're heading out here onto Lower Belgrave Street. Okay, do you know why we're here now? Let's have a quick look at Knight Frank. This is the real estate agents. Let's get an idea of what exactly we would pay if we planned on living here. So Ranelagh Grove, Belgravia, a beautifully bright and spacious 3-bedroom house for rent in Belgravia, and it is beautiful. £2,950 per week. Council tax band H. Wow. Guide price £6,000 a week, folks. 4 bedrooms, £6,000. Yowzer. Now, probably one of the most controversial stories in London's history, and the beginning of the end of the man that was famously known as Lucky Lucan, or Lord Lucan. Ladies and gents, this is the Plumber's Arms. Now this is the exact pub where on the 7th of November 1974 a blood-stained and injured Countess of Lucan burst into the pub and announced, "Help me, help me. I've just escaped from being murdered. He's in the house. He's murdered the nanny." The murderer she was referring to, of course, was her husband, the infamous Lord Lucan. He had indeed actually killed the nanny, Sandra Rivet, in what was billed a mistake actually. He intended to kill his wife. They were embroiled over a custody battle over their children and a very bitter divorce. And initially after they separated, he moved into a flat in this area, but it was a very, very bitter divorce between both, and the animosity between them obviously triggered his desire to murder his wife, yet unfortunately he murdered the nanny by accident, and that is when he went on the run. And to this day, Lord Lucan has never been found. Now, over the years, people have spotted him, and there's been theories as to his location and where he went to. Did his friends help him along the way? He had spent I think he was gambling that night beforehand in Annabelle's. We did that on my tour of Mayfair, and we'll bring up Annabelle's as well. But this is the infamous pub where it all began, the investigation into the disappearance of Lord Lucan. And there's the actual house, folks, where the murder took place, at number 46. So she ran the short distance down there, Lady Lucan, right down there, to the Plumber's Arms. An actual scandal that gripped the nation, and it became, even to this day, it's still a mystery of which people are absolutely obsessed with. Every now and then it'll rear its head. The mystery of So we've done a little circle there, and that's brought us right back around again to Eaton Square. Now, Eaton Square is considered by a lot of people as the most prestigious address in London. Roman Abramovich had 2 properties down here. Not content with one, he bought 2, with a combined total of an estimated £80 million. He knocked them both into a palatial home. This will give you an idea of the square. Now, we could walk the whole way around, but you get the idea. But in its heyday in 1890, it housed 17 dukes, earls and viscounts, 8 knights, 9 titled ladies, 6 admirals and generals, 9 MPs, and it was estimated that it was required to earn a minimum of £100,000 a year to live here and to have 10 servants and a cook. Quite remarkable, considering it is now still. Look at that little boy up there, isn't he gorgeous? On the balcony of the beautiful home in Eaton Square. There's another very interesting address over here. And this chap has a background with two of the most famous and notorious criminals in London's East End history. This was the home of Robert Lord Boothby in 1900 to 1986. Politician, author and broadcaster, lived here from 1946 to 1986. His association with the Crays was well documented. He partied quite regularly with them. In particular, some very obscene parties, shall we say. And in true form, it looks like they seem to be filming down here, as we're heading up on one of the most beautiful churches in the area. This is the Church of St. Peter. And it's a Greek revivalist style, and it was built to a design by John Henry Haeckel during the 1820s as well, around the same time that Belgravia would have been developed. So looks like they have a model shoot taking place here at the moment. So I'm going to get out of here in a minute. So the footpath ahead is closed, so it's making it a little difficult to access, you guys. But just to give you an idea of how many other very famous people lived in Eaton Square, you're dealing with Prime Minister Lord John Russell, Vivian Leigh, Roger Moore, Stanley Baldwin, George Peabody, the famous American philanthropist who was responsible for so much social housing in this country, vested millions into social housing in this country, and to this day you'll still see the Peabody estates. So a wonderful philanthropist whose legacy still lives to this day. You had the likes of Roger Moore, Sean Connery, Joan Collins. Oh, Andrew Lloyd Webber actually lived along here as well. Many, many more in the wonderful Eaton Square. The houses that are left here, if any of them do come up for sale, they usually go for anywhere for 50 million, ladies and gents. So what I find quite fascinating about Belgrave Square was this initially was supposed to be the focal point of Belgravia, even though kind of Eaton Square has taken over that position in Belgravia society nowadays. But when construction began here in the 1820s, clay taken from the site to make bricks was replaced by soil and stone that was being excavated at the same time during the construction of most of St. Catherine's Dock. So this means that much of Belgrave Square, you see, actually rests on what was originally part of the East End of London, which is quite fascinating. I wonder if the residents themselves know about this here in the incredible Belgrave Square. So the Belgravians, are they true original Cockneys, ladies and gents, I wonder? Quite controversial, that statement. Please don't come for me. Now, number 36 is what I'm looking for. Okay, so this is 34 and 35. Let's see who lived there at number 34. Field Marshal Viscount Gort lived, and he was a commander-in-chief at Dunkirk. Wow, lived here between 1920 and 1926. As you can see, it's all embassies in the area, but we're looking for number 36 because this was the home that Queen Victoria rented, actually for her mother when she moved in to Buckingham Palace. Queen Victoria wasn't too fond of a rather overbearing mother who tended to be quite controlling of her as a young girl. So when she gained her independence, she did naturally what any other 18-year-old girl would do, and she was awoken one morning in the early hours of the morning in Kensington Palace, and she was told she was now queen of the largest empire the world had ever seen. And she did naturally what any other 18-year-old girl would do. She packed her bags immediately, waved goodbye to her overbearing mother, and moved on into her brand new 775-room mansion. And during that time, she rented a property at number 36 for her mother. Now, right across here, we will see a statue of Simon Bolivar. It's a beautiful bronze statue of him. And according to this, he was the liberator of Venezuela and Colombia. So it was erected to commemorate in the 1970s his connections with London. Liberator of Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, and Panama. Founder of Bolivia, born in Caracas, Venezuela, the 24th of July, 1783, died in Santa Marta, Colombia, the 17th of December, 1830. So, dedication to Simon Bolivar. Okay, so we're taking a slight little detour here down Chapel Street, because I wanted to bring you to number 24. And this is for all my Beatles fanatics. It's very hard to walk around London without every corner has some form of Beatles history, but it doesn't get much bigger than this. This is number 24, and this was the home of Brian Epstein, manager of the Beatles from 1964 until his death inside this house on the 27th of August 1967. So we all know that Epstein was crucial to the band's breakthrough, and they visited this house many, many times, but perhaps most notably, one of the most famous was a press launch that was hosted here for their incredible album, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. That took place inside this very house on Chapel Street, just off Belgrave Square. But we're going to take another little stroll down here, see another few very famous plaques in the area. But first, let me just show you this statue to Sir Robert Grosvenor. And this was commissioned by the 6th Duke of Westminster, Gerald Grosvenor. And here it gives you a little bit of history of the Grosvenor family. It's worth your time having a little look. So he was the one who initiated much of the development of the Grosvenor estate and family property holdings, including Belgravia, and his son Richard Grosvenor, who was the 2nd Marquis of Westminster, brought it to fruition. So his foot, you'll see, is resting on a stone there, and that indicates 197 miles to Chester, near the Grosvenor family seat, accompanied by his beloved dogs. And just when you thought that that was the end of everything, wait until you see this incredible street down here. And we're going to walk around here. Now, these are absolutely beautiful. I think this is stunning now. This would be my preference for residence. I love this little semicircle. It's almost a bit like Bath and the Royal Crescent. These Georgian buildings are said to accommodate many servants, usually on the very, very top floors, and the kitchens were always in the basement because they were perceived as fire hazards. But this over here is what I've walked all around for, just to show you, was the home of the Earl and the Countess of Mountbatten, Earl and the Countess Mountbatten of Burma. The last Viceroy, Viceroy of India, lived here. And of course the Earl of Mountbatten was a favoured cousin of the King, but he practically reared him, of King Charles, but he came to a brutal ending when he was executed by the Irish Republican Army whilst out fishing. It's in the late 1970s, I believe. So we'll take a ride after that, and we're going to head down Mockcombe Street, which is technically the high street of North Belgravia. And along here we'll have some beautiful little diners and eateries. The Alfred Tennyson. I wonder, is that a pub or a little coffee shop? Some gorgeous upmarket boutiques as well. Hawking Mews down on the left. Oh, look at down there. Could you just imagine living there, you guys? I certainly could. And beautiful little eateries. It seems quite popular. There's gorgeous little galleries and boutiques. Premier dry cleaners. Even the dry cleaners are premier, you guys. Shoe stores. It's a gorgeous little area. Osborne Studio Gallery, art studios featuring the work of Philip Shaw. Look at these beautiful, quaint little buildings. And here on the right is the I can't pronounce it, you guys, I'm so sorry. The Pantechnicon building, which I do know was built in the 1830s, and it was originally a warehouse. It's a wonderful place to get a little coffee pick-me-up. Would you believe it? There's a Starbucks inside there. I'm gonna just show you the atmosphere, of course. No beautiful neighbourhood like this would be complete without Waitrose, you guys. That's the nicest Waitrose I've ever seen. Even the smells around here, you can smell the perfume, which is just divine. I'm getting a lot of Chanel No. 5 around here right now. The Mockholm restaurant, gazpacho soup, steak and fries, swordfish and mango, chili salsa, baked Alaska, and Eaton mask. Let's get a look at the Scottish smoked salmon for 18. Main menus, yeah, that's pretty good. 32, veal parmigiana, 32. This beautiful outdoor restaurant. That'll take us down here to this glorious little area. Truly feels like you're in a different world. Coco de Mer, London is here. Look at that. Gorgeous store. So we're just going to take a little detour then down Kinnerton Street, and you'll see these three guys faffing over this incredible Ferrari and people taking photos of it. Ferraris are kind of like Fiats around here. They're so commonplace, so don't get too excited about them. If you're really into cars, the best place to visit is the Dorchester car park. But I wanted to take you down this beautiful little charming street. It's got a very village-like atmosphere. As we're heading down a little away from here's a car park for Knightsbridge. And that does bring us down here to two very charming little... Now, the first one we come across was originally built for the coachmen and the men who took care of the horses in the area. This is for them to come and get a quiet sup. But I like it down here. It's very quiet. These little back streets are what make London so truly unique. I mean, we're coming closer now to the area of Hyde Park Corner, so still a very busy part of London, but these are the little back streets that I live for. Look at Kinnerton Yard, you guys. Grosvenor private mews again. Oh my days. Well, I've enjoyed this little ramble today. I hope you enjoyed joining me. I feel like I'm a bit out of practice, so I'm working my way through getting into it. I have a lot more coming up. I'm planning on doing Richmond, planning on doing Marylebone for you. I will be doing Another one in Soho, actually. There is so much to see in Soho. So this is the charming Nag's Head pub I was telling you about. Around the back there. Especially built for the horses, the coachmen. The bit of respite for them. Gorgeous little pub there. On the side streets. And we'll continue on. You won't be short if you decide you'd like to get a drink in this area, and as ever, the constant construction everywhere we go. Another lovely little quaint place to get a drink, established in 1826. Here we have Judith Blacklock's Flower School. So if you'd like a course in floristry and floral design, you know where to come. Boys are saying hello. Hi guys, having a nice day? Good. Very nice pub in there, right? Might pop in and have a look. Oh, thank you. I'm actually off it. Usually I wouldn't say no, but boys having a good time. Yeah, I'm not drinking at the moment. I just had a little bout of that dreaded flu that we were all avoiding 3 years ago. Yes, I was a victim of it again. That's why I've been kind of laid out, as it were, exhausted. But on the mend again. So for right now, my lovelies, I am going to call it quits. Can I thank you all most sincerely for joining me yet again. You're always an absolute pleasure. I haven't said this in a while, but I would really, really, really appreciate you liking and subscribing to the channel. And if you have any friends that you think would benefit from our little jollies around London, please don't hesitate to share. Liking and subscribing really does help us fund the channel and keep it going. A lot of exciting things coming up in the next few weeks. But for right now, ladies and gentlemen, I am signing out here, finishing up my Belgravia tour. Thanks as ever for joining me. Sinead here, wandering around the beautiful Belgravia. Thanks for joining me, you guys. See you all on the next one. Many, many more to come.